question of making them know that they ought not to eat the fruits from the tree in the middle of the garden. It was a test on temperance and equally on obedience. Basically, the health message, the Adventist movement, of course, there are many movements that speak about the health message, but what is unique about our health message is the fact that it is holistic. When you read the book of Luke chapter 2, verse 52, when we are spoken to of Christ, that he grew in stature, in favor with God, and also in favor with man. So our Adventist health message does not just deal with the physical, but as well it deals with the holistic being or the nature of man. It speaks about temperance, it speaks about mental well-being, it speaks about our social well-being, it speaks about our spiritual well-being. So we don't just focus on what we consume or what it is that is attached to our physical stature, but as well our spirituality, as well our social stature, just like Christ was growing physically, socially, spiritually, so does our health message focus on these three spheres of life. Aside from that, the health message is the right arm of the gospel in preparing us for the second coming of Christ, that we may have a clarity of thought, that we may be able to perceive spiritual things and make decisions that are heavenly, decisions that will enable us be glorified at the end. Then we need to understand it, we need to practice it, we need to teach it as well to others. So the health message is the right arm, specifically of the third angel's message that focuses on our intellect. Yeah, allow me to stop it at that.
Thank you very much. For those who are joining us, feel free. And like I said earlier, if you have a question, kindly carry up your hand. Or if you cannot carry up your hand, just type in the chat box and it will be taken care of. Meanwhile, as we wait for your questions, I had a second one that I received also. And this goes to Brother Tony Nyauke. Tony, in 2 minutes, can you answer this question? It says, can I be saved if I don't pay attention to the health message?
Yes, thank you for that question. Now, I usually like to answer such a question is by asking another simple question. Am I saved by paying tithe? Of course, I'm not saved by paying tithe. Can I be lost if I don't pay tithe? Then the answer is yes. So when we talk about the health message, the first thing that I want us to remember is that one, God is the author of all laws in the universe. Be it physics laws, be it mathematical laws, be it health laws or spiritual laws. God is the author of all the laws. Now, nature shows that they are obedient to the law of God, and it is essential for their survival to obey it. Let me give an example that we used to do in school. There's this experiment that we used to do with plants. You put it in a dark place, and then you simply have a little hole where light can enter. What happens when you come to look at the plant? You find that it bends towards the light. So the presence of light is essential to its growth, and it is obedient to that law of the light that comes from light. Now, we as human beings, the message of health is not only a physical message that restores our bodies, but it is also a spiritual message. It not only deals with the health of the body, but also the health of the mind. Let me explain. You find that everything that we do is a gift of grace. Grace is a gift of God. So even the obeying health message, we obtain that grace from God. And when we do that, we do not only align ourselves with God as the author of moral law, but we also agree with Him as the author of physical laws. And therefore, anything and everything that we do, including with our body, is still tied to the judge of all the earth. Now, when God comes, He will come to judge us according to the deeds done in the body. Now, when he asks, I gave you health as a talent, I gave you health as a gift, what did you do with your body? And how will you answer it? Will you start saying that, but it's just simply a physical health? And so we cannot treat the health message of the laws of health lightly because we think that it only applies to the realm of physical. But the same author that gave us the moral laws also gave us the physical laws, and we are indebted to him for that. And so we read in the Bible in Acts 17:28 that in him we move and live and have our being. And so in God we have everything that we do physically. We move, we live and have our being. And therefore, when he comes to judge, he will come to judge us based on what we've done in the body, with the strength that he gave us. What have we done with it? Now, we are not saved by keeping the laws of health, just as we are not saved by keeping the Sabbath, or just as we are not saved by paying tithes, but we will be lost when that light has come and we have ignored it. And so I not only take it as something that I do physical, but it is also a salvational matter. Now, there are many ways that I can handle it, obviously, but I just wanted to shorten my answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Tony. I'm seeing someone typing in the chat box. It quite escaped me. Is it a question for those who are following? Someone can confirm? Oh, all right, I'll get to it. I think I saw...
It's a comment.
Oh, it's a comment. All right. Thank you. I saw some 3 hands and then they disappeared. Are they still actively raised? From, I think, Kevin. Yeah, if they're still raised, they can ask their questions. Yeah, they can re-raise so that I notice again. But as we wait for them, let us move to the third one. Brother Elijah, in 2 minutes, there is a question that I got. How can one be termed as an extremist in health reform? How can one be termed as an extremist in health reform? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I believe you are getting me. We thank the Lord so much for this opportunity that we may learn of Him. So let's continue praying for this holy discourse that the Lord may continue speaking unto us. But at no point should human opinion or perspective dominate, but let the heavens speak unto us. Anyway, straight to the question that how can one be termed as an extremist, or what is that aspect of extremism? And we ought to ask ourselves that what is this extremism, or when can someone be termed as an extremist? It means that there was normalcy. There was a normal point, and before deviation from that normal point. For me, the way I looked at the aspect of extremism is from the temperance point of view. I believe most, if not all, know the definition or the application aspect of temperance, that temperance is totally discarding all that is wrong or wicked, and judiciously using or pursuing that which is right or good. That's all about temperance. But if by any point we deviate or divert from this aspect, this particular normal point, balance point, I believe that is when extremism will come through. And when it comes to health, this is where most of the deviation actually do take place. So simply that's the whole point. A number of times people think that by embracing little, or most of the people tend to think that extremism is to the much extent, or to the high extent, but even the lower aspect is also extremism. I may have some examples, but time may not allow. When it comes to things like nutrients that are needed in the body, because there are a number of things that are spoken in the spirit of prophecy, or rather that are brought forth in the spirit of prophecy. When it comes to, for example, food, when someone is taking food that is not balanced or is not furnished with all the necessary nutrients that are required, you see, that means that person is embracing the wrong or the bad thing, which means that person has already deviated from the temperance or the normal aspect that is required. So the aspect right here is that it can be embracing the bad or not judiciously embracing the good. That is what I can say. That's all about extremism. Thank you.
Will you just move a notch higher? Practical examples, just a little bit again. Yeah,
okay.
For example, in that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I had mentioned of food, for example. We need for our bodies to be well, or rather to be healthy. It has to be furnished with all the necessary nutrients. Of course, when broken down, I believe we get to understand we have all those things: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and rather fatty acids, and all those things. So if, for example, someone focuses on one particular thing or takes one particular source, of course, there's much that we can say about food anyway, because most of the time, or rather, when we take a particular food, although it may be rich in a particular nutrient, but does not mean that it lacks the other. Though you will have that one which is much in that particular food in excess, and the other nutrients will be less in your body. So you'll find that person at the end will have a deficiency in the other nutrient, and will have this other one in excess, or it may be converted to another thing. It may be converted to another thing. Like when you consider basic science, we are told that there is a way that energies, or rather carbohydrates, are being converted. When they are in high amount, they are being converted and stored in form of fats. So you see, by taking the carbohydrates in excess, they will be converted to something else, because their optimum usage in the body will have been reached, so it will be converted to another thing. And the other ones, so someone will experience the symptoms of the extreme aspect of that particular nutrient that I've mentioned, that is carbohydrates, and will also experience the symptoms of the lack of the things, or rather the nutrients that were not taken. I don't know if you have gotten me or I've mixed you up. So simply, there will be in excess of a particular nutrient and a deficiency in another one. Thank you. That's just, there are many examples, but allow me to just give that. Maybe another one is the aspect of dress. When someone puts, we have been admonished and told a number of times, when someone puts an extremely long dress, which will be sweeping the dirt of the street, that is extremism on one end. Another one is extremely short dress. It will create chaos to the people who will be seeing the flesh of that particular person. So those two ends ought to be shunned. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think it's a bit clear. Yes, Ryle, yes.
Thank you for that, Brother Elijah, for that elaborate explanation. I just want to cite something, because this is something that when we consider the history of the church, maybe even out of the subject of health reform in itself, there are many people in our church history tells us that the history has been laced with so many people who have gone to extreme ends. I think the problem would be on, I would say, an autonomy, a self-rule, a desire to think this is me and that is them in terms of ideology. So some of us have maybe had some extreme interpretations about the word of God that has led us to be fanatical, even in the message that we are talking about. And you would even find that God's word is actually not characterized by such beliefs and ideologies. And another problem is that we're so bent on pressing towards our ideologies, and then we even forget, or we are oblivious of the fact that the Spirit of the Lord is not actually in what we believe. Maybe we believe the good thing, but in the wrong way, having a zeal, but not after the manner of Christ, as Paul puts it. But this is something also that heaven is seeking to correct, to help us out of it. I can be extreme in the event of being a formalist. I can also be extreme on being fanatical, maybe not giving the right regard towards the message that I've received. I can be termed as an extremist. I can also be an extremist on the fact that I am fanatical, whatever I believe, maybe now describing the letter but being void of the Spirit. And it's something that our God is also seeking, and we would notice that the evil one, or the devil himself, has created this division in the church so that we may lose the mark on what is really salvational and what is important, what we ought to focus on, and focusing on the things that are not really important, that are also making us veer away from the way or the path of salvation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may also be here and you feel like answering. You are not limited. So you just raise up your hand. Meanwhile, we still urge you to raise up your hand or write in the chat box so that we handle it. Even if you feel like answering or adding something, you are free. Thank you very much for addressing that. Brother Tony, this one goes to you. I was asked, I've heard about the health message and especially about the diet reform, but I think it is too expensive. What do you have to say about that?
Yes. First of all, let me say this. There's a quotation. I can't remember where, but there's a quotation about health reform. Ellen White is saying that those who want to be health reformers must learn how to work. She says that. So she says that those who want to be health reformers must learn how to work. And so that brings to mind that if you want to be lazy about your health, then you can't be a health reformer. Now, that does not mean that we must have the money. We must have that money so that we can be health reformers. God wants us to follow the life that He has given us as much as we can, as much as the conditions allow. And so if you look at the health message, I believe that even in the current world right now, there's enough resources for even that person that comes from a humble background that they can afford something. Now, a lot of the things that people usually complain about that is expensive, usually sugar. What else? Mostly it's usually sugar. I'm forgetting the others. But you realize that if you look at how they take their diet, they have the breakfast, lunch, and supper, which lunch and supper is usually heavy meals. And if you just revert the order of the meals, then you still have the same thing. And so the part that people usually say that it is expensive, generally I have never agreed with it. Why do I say so? Because I have been a health reformer for 6 years now, I have been a health reformer while in school, and I have been out of school for about a year now. And I've just been hustling, nothing much have I gotten. And yet, I have been living on the simplest things that I've found. For proteins, legumes, the simplest that I've found, we have lentils, beans, and green grams, and such like. And yet, anytime I go to hospital just for a checkup, let's say I pass by a clinic and test my BMI, or I go to donate blood, I'm usually found to be healthy and at times extremely healthy. And it is just the simple things. And so the thing that it is expensive, generally, personally, I usually do not agree with it, because I believe that God has given us resources that we can live on, even as we work towards having those other things. Now, because we are working hard, now we can start affording more expensive things like honey or more expensive nuts and such like things. Now, another thing also, for a single person, it may be relatively cheap, but then for someone who has a family, purchasing things like, let's say, groundnuts may be costly. What I usually say is that use what is within your means. The principle versus application of the principle are two different things. The principle is that we should be health reformers. What do I mean? That whole foods, plant-based diet. Application of the principle is that we try to do that as much as our abilities can accommodate, as much as our pockets can accommodate. And so, if I cannot afford something, but my money, the little money that I have, can afford something else which is good, then God holds me responsible for that which He has blessed me with. And so we live within our means, but we still try to obey or to follow the principles of health reform that has been put down by God. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm still delighted to hear from you guys. I haven't seen a hand or anything in the chat box. Yeah, I'll just get to Brother Elijah shortly. Yeah, so the principle versus application of the principle, that was powerful. Before I get to Elijah, maybe to try and chew it for someone who may be listening. For example, you look at the food elements in United States of America and their recipes. Yeah, and so maybe walnuts, if I may put it so. The other one inaitwaje? Or this, their food elements. Sorry? Cashew nuts. Yes, thank you, Basil. Yeah, Brazilian nuts, cashew nuts, and all this. But what we must understand is that within where we are, actually, I was amazed when I read that quote, that God designed that in various parts of the world, He has placed food that is adaptable to that place. So what you can obtain from an American diet that you really want to purchase and maybe import could be achieved. For example, the same broccoli that you'll need to look for, a kienyeji called bo, for those who know Kijaluo, kunde, yeah? can still supply the same elements that you could have gotten in broccoli. I don't know if someone is getting me. Yeah, I just wanted to chew that. Yes, Brother Elijah.
Okay, thank you so much. I really don't know. Someone says that it is expensive. You know, when you come, for example, to the age doctors, that is the loss of health. When it comes to something like fresh air, you know, someone may ask himself or herself, how costly is this? And when you look now at the end, or the other hand, when you say, well, the other hand, which is not now impressing these genuine health message, you'll find that the other side is much more expensive. How? When someone is not vigilant when it comes to fresh air, eventually that person may suffer from respiratory conditions, and that person eventually may need oxygen, may need oxygen as a supplemental oxygen just to assist that person with breathing. Just imagine, for fresh air, you are not paying for it, but when it comes to oxygen, when you are now given oxygen, you'll have to pay for it, and it will cost fortune. And other simple things like temperance. How does temperance cost? And like water, how does water cost? I believe most of us, especially those who live in the country, they can get it. They can really get it easily. Maybe in the towns is where water is bought, but when you come to the country, I believe it is easily accessible. And there are many other things which are simply or rather easily accessible, and they are very available. Let me just stick to the respiratory condition. Let's say someone is just suffering from simple upper respiratory condition, and when you have that knowledge of how to apply or use simple things that are found within at home, like let's say onions and simple thing as onion, just simple thing as onion, the bulb onion, simple thing as that, something that you can just maybe having grown in your own kitchen garden, or maybe you have bought it in a reliable source at a very cheaper price. Just applying such simple things is different from getting it from a clinic, because clinic there's a consultation fee and other things, So it's just when you reason out with God, as he says in Isaiah 1:18, you'll get that his way is simple, cheap. Everything is just as he has heavens deems fit, just simple and accessible. Just to finish, we ought to remember that health, this thing has been ringing in my mind always, all along, that health is wealth. Health is wealth. You may not see that, someone may disregard the health of the loss of health, but eventually, when that person will suffer, that is when that person will see now the aspect of cost. The cost will now come in managing, especially chronic conditions that will have chronic or lifestyle diseases that will have built for a long time. It actually takes time, and it actually costs a lot. So for me, I see that this genuine health message, or the medical missionary, is so cheap and so clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We have 3 hands. Oh, amen. Thank God. Let's begin from Sister Diana, then we'll go to Musa, then finally to Ryan. Yes, Sister Diana.
Oh, thank you so much. I just wanted to add something, that our bodies are so precious. There is nothing that we can compare with. That is why it can be true that someone is saying that the healthy foods are expensive. At a point, it can be because our bodies require something that will enable it to go further. For example, we have been admonished to take foods which are fresh in a manner that it will always remain in case there is damage. And also we are admonished to take simple meals that are around us, simple meals that we can afford, and simple meals that are fast to be prepared. Just the line mark of this is that we are maintaining the state of our bodies, because it is not the expensiveness of the food, but where are you aiming? We can be eating foods which in our own eyes it is very cheap, but what is the impact it is making to your spiritual, to your emotional, to your physical? And the plant-based diet, God gave everything in it. Even when we compare with the ecosystem, when we relate with for example, the primary producers, the plants, God gave them 100%, meaning that when we take the plant-based diet, we get everything in it, the 100%. And this 100% our character to God. It is not I'm eating because I'm a health reformer, but is my character inclined to the will of the Lord? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diana. Brother Musa, welcome.
Okay, my I don't know if it's a question or maybe a response concerning the thought that the health reform kind of living is expensive. So one thing that maybe I would like to put across is that the origin of this statement is mostly associated with ignorance. For example, on the table we'll have salt and even, let's say, milk. Someone will say, it's okay for me to take this because if you give me another, let's say, a different kind of option, it will be like this is more of stretching. So I guess the point of people saying expensive or rather costly, it comes from them not being exposed to knowledge or rather studying of this. So ignorance really is what is costing a lot of us as Christians. And when we read the Bible, it says that Christ ate with sinners. That does not refer that he ate like sinners. Yes, he ate with them, but doesn't mean that he tolerated. I know that our bodies are subject to choose that which we do not want to choose, but we find ourselves choosing time and again the things that we will not. So if we will get a right knowledge of God's original mind, I think we will kick out the ignorance kind of thing, and we will not see the cost into it, but we will see the end result, that we will be wholly sanctified. For example, someone will argue, nikikula sahi salt, there's no problem. These are the salts that we know that has a lot of effects in future. So people normally don't see the effects far off. And we all know that when Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they never died instantly, but the effects were manifested as what? Gradually. So people may argue out of ignorance the expensiveness or rather the area around it, because one, they lack knowledge, and that is why such responses exist. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sister Ryle.
Okay, in less than a minute, just to add to what our brethren have already mentioned, God never intended to make anything to become burdensome to us, including the health reform message. But I would say that it is our attitudes and our perverted appetites that have not experienced divine searing that lead us to make excuses like the health reform or foods that are healthy are expensive. And meals ought to be simple to the extent that they're able to serve even the poorest person. For example, if I would consider our Sabbath meals, even in our churches today, and watch the extravagance that our tables are laid forward, a big luncheon, not bad, but giving observance to the kinds of food that are laid on the table, you would say this would be expensive in comparison to just having a simple food, like preparing githeri, boiling it with salt, and serving people would serve a great multitude of people. And I've experienced it somewhere as well. Somebody would even choose to stay at home or not congregate with other people because of the burden that is laid on them in contribution for Sabbath meals. So I would say that our meals ought to be simple by understanding, once we have understood the kind of nutrients that we ought to supply with our systems, and find the most simple foods that can serve those particular nutrients, then I believe we would not consider it as something that is expensive.
Thank you very much. It means you do not need like a lot of maybe 4 different kinds of food and in the same table, or something, the extravagance that we always see on Sabbath lunch. Thank you for bringing that home, and may God bless you. So members, if you still have a question, you can type it or raise your hand. I'm seeing William has typed some good things there in the chat box. You can read. I want us to shift a little bit, and this is now shifting from physical health as we near to the end. Brother Tony, in 2 minutes, what about the mind, our thoughts? Can they influence our physical health? Most of the time we've heard that what we eat affects us, and we've also been told that even what we eat may becloud our minds so that spiritually we are not able to discern spiritual things clearly. But can our thoughts in turn now influence our physical health? How do we marry physical health and mental health? Yes, Brother Tony, in 2 minutes.
So the mind acts as the engine, let me say the engine of the body. It is the reasoning machine of the body. And if the mind is compromised, then the judgment that comes from it will also be compromised. And if the judgment is compromised, then those things that restrain us from doing certain things, those that are called the higher powers, they are also stifled. So what I mean is that if our minds cannot think properly, then we are left to intemperance. And an intemperate man cannot choose what he or she does what puts in the body. Now, let me give an example. What we eat influences our mind. And alcoholic, they start by taking alcohol, but then it influences the mind. And then the mind gets changed. Chemical releases become different, hormonal imbalances, and so the mind becomes addicted to the substance. And so now the mind influences how he or she will take the substance that now destroys the health. So they are prone to alcoholism and drug and substance abuse. So our mental status, our mental mind, our mental health, when it has been beclouded, it also affects what we put inside our body. And that's the same thing with some type of mental disorders. You find that something breaks in the mind, and so they either binge eat, they eat constantly, or they become addicted to things like sugar and candies and such like things, because the mind has been compromised. And so there's this book that I have been reading. I can't remember the title clearly, but it talks about breaking away from addictions that destroy our mind. And he's focusing specifically on the chemistry of the brain. And so he's showing how addiction affects people on what they eat. And so when the mind is broken, when the mental health has been compromised, it can indeed affect that which we put in our body. And in turn, when it affects that which we put in our body, the cycle continues. And so the mind becomes compromised more, the body becomes compromised more, and the mind becomes compromised more. And so we are always in an infinite cycle that unless an intervention comes in, cannot be broken. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. There is a crucial question there that we must move to and answer it very fast, because I'm also seeing time gone. Yes, Musa, in under 1 minute as we move to that question.
Thank you. Maybe on the mind, we all know the role of stimulants, what they do to our bodies. They don't give the mind the right functioning. And also, I once read a statement that the food you eat affects your mood. So, depending also on what you've eaten, I read somewhere about bananas, of how they boost your mood and everything. And even to harmful foods like too much use of sugar and everything, they kind of compromise the brain cells and the performance of it. It's more scientifically, of course, proven. And of course, things like flesh foods, which kind of accelerate animalism and the behaviors of animals in people. So it's true that our mental well-being also is influenced by what is received into the body through the stomach. Somewhere it says concerning about the stomach and the mind that a clogged stomach is a clogged mind. So there's that kind of association, since it's one body that serves an individual. Thank you so much.
All right, there are questions on the chat box that I really want us to handle. Yeah, I really want us to handle the questions on the chat box. Just forgive me so that we handle them. At Diana and William, let me give you 30 seconds each. Let us begin with Diana. 30 seconds, please, as we handle the questions on the chat box.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that from what we eat, the blood is made. And when we eat dirty things, it means that our blood will be dirty, meaning that the blood circulates throughout the body. And in blood, there is life. And when we eat things that compromises our mind, it basically means that what we eye on, it will be just the channels of evil. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being time conscious, William. 30 seconds as we answer. There are two very heavy questions in the chat box that we must address before we come to a close. Yes, William, in 30 seconds. Oh, seemingly we lost you. Seemingly there's a problem with your network.
Yes, thank you so much. Using my... Hello? Are you able?
Yeah, you're now clear.
Are you able to listen now?
Yes, we are able.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to say, also add by saying that if someone, for example, create or invent something, a machine, that person will create the same machine, a manual. We are one of the wonderful machines that God has created, and beside that machine there is a manual that tells you on how to use that machine. So if human beings can just be wise and use the manual that was given by God, the correct manual that allows the machine to run smoothly, then the machine will not meet or will not experience any breakdown. So we have a manual that controls on how we eat, how we work, how we sit, and how we talk, that promotes our health or our well-being. So let's just trust the manual, man, and everything. Number two, healthy foods are everywhere. Men and women has not given themselves to prepare those meals by themselves. They want to go and run and buy them in the market. But once you dig something down, you're going to expect to have some good food. I attended a state mission, and we did a mission with less than 50,000, and we ate only vegetables and fruits and grains, and we were there for 2 weeks. So healthy food meals are so cheap because they are just from the ground. May God bless you.
Thank you for being time conscious. There are two heavy questions on the chat box. We want to close with them. Romans 14 verses 2, this is interesting. For one believeth that he may eat all things, another, who is weak, eateth herbs. Then verses 3, let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, And let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for God hath received him. Help me elaborate this verse in accordance to health reform. In other words, Romans is implying that one who eats herbs is, I think, weak, and no one should be judged. I think you understood the verse. So the Collins is requesting that we elaborate this verse in accordance with health reform. Yes, so that is the question. Don't know if I can begin with my panelists. Ryle, you have something?
Okay. The aspect that Paul was talking about in the book of Romans basically is on addressing Christians who had become judgmental on others. Now, the stage of our spirituality, whichever level of spiritual growth that we are in as children of God, it is never a requisite. It is never a requisite for worship. Or it is never a requisite for us to begin pointing fingers at those who have not reached the stature of spirituality that we have. Maybe spotting on the things that we are able to, or we have been able to overcome, while others are still struggling with them. And he was also trying to elaborate that as much as health is important in its entirety, it should not be regarded as the very gospel itself. It is an aspect that aids the gospel in moving forward or in extension. And I think it is quite important to us today. He was not making void the issue of health, but he was trying to elaborate it for further understanding and also emphasizing the fact that we ought not to judge others who are not within our spiritual stature of growth. And that is what I would say.
Oh, thank you, Tony. You have something? Also, if you are not a member of the panel and you have an answer to it, feel free. Tony, you have something? Very fast, and then to
Yes, so
Elijah.
let me add to what Ryle has said. I love the book of Romans. It's my favorite book in the Bible. So when you read the book of Romans, Paul is comparing between two people. We have the Jews and the Gentiles. The historical background. We have the Jews and the Gentiles. Now, the Gentiles, everything that they did, it was done in respect to a deity. And so, if they were to offer an animal, that animal was offered in respect to a deity. If they were to eat something, that meal was eaten in respect to a deity. Now, when these Gentiles came into Christianity, and they wanted to separate from anything that was tied to a foreign god rather than Christ, they decided that instead of taking flesh, which they took in respect to a deity, they decided, let me say, quote unquote, to be health reformers. And so, when the Jews who had the Levitical laws saw the Gentiles doing this, they started pointing fingers at the Gentiles that they who are weak are not following what they are doing. And so Paul is coming and because when Paul is writing to the Romans, he's not writing to the Gentiles only, he's writing to both the Jews and the Gentiles. So he's coming and saying, okay, this is it. The Gentiles have come to the faith. Yes, they are weak in faith and they have decided to do what? To take herbs. Now, because they are taking herbs and you, because of your Levitical laws, you decided to take flesh, there's no point in pointing a finger at them because God has received him, the Gentile, into himself, just as he has received you, the Jew, unto himself. So that is why Paul is saying that there's no respect of persons with God. And so there's no point of starting to say that this is the way that you must follow for you to be saved. Another example is if you look at in the book of Galatians, where the Jews will literally go to the bathroom with the Gentiles to look if they have been circumcised. and then point judgment to the Gentiles who have not been circumcised. And so Paul is writing in the book of Galatians that how comes you are moving to another gospel which is not the gospel because of people who have come to steal your liberty. So the historical context, I'm giving the historical context. Paul was comparing in the book of Romans the Jews versus the Gentiles. And so when you look at it in that point, and you see how the Gentiles were being converted and everything that they were living for the sake of Christ, then you come to understand it. So it is not that you are allowed to eat flesh and someone else who has chosen to eat herbs can eat herbs. No. Paul was preaching the gospel to the people, and the gospel does not allow anyone to eat another person. So that is what I can add to what Riley said.
Yeah, I think the question is well addressed, and also time is gone. William, very fast, please. William, if you can hear me. All right. We can move to the next question as we come to a close. It says, it's there in the chat box. You can follow it together with me. Should we eat nothing that we can't ask God to bless? So food prepared on Sabbath. William is talking. All right.
I just wanted to just give a verse concerning that question. If you read the book of Psalms 104 from verse 15, if you just start from verse 12 up to verse 15, you are going to get your answer. And when I read it in my vernacular language, it touched on the question than when I read it in English, because English talk about herbs. But when I read it in my vernacular language, there's how it touched the question very steadily, like that. If you're a Lu here, you will see, you hear, allow me just use, then I will translate that omio lum lotne jamni kendo miyo alode twine dhano mondo cham mondo teko mopurogo mondo yud divai mamiye mor and so on, that it maketh the grass to grow for cows and herbs for man to strengthen the man. So there is no way we can say that those who eat or those who take herbs and grains are weaker, or that grains makes them weaker. The Sabbath says that these are the things that makes man to be strong and to do handworks like going to the farm and other things. So when you read the book of Romans, most of the people just pick the place where the place which touches which supports their view, but that doesn't read the whole chapter. If you get time to read the whole chapter, you are going to see that what was the context on which Paul was trying to lay his view concerning the things to be eaten and things not to be eaten. May God bless you. I think many has the views, and let us pray for our brothers to understand these books of Romans, and not only the book of Romans, some other books that are talking about health and other doctrinal issues that were written by Apostle Paul. Even Peter said that they are hard to understand, but they need the meekness of Christ to understand them. May God bless you in Jesus' name.
Thank you very much. Allow us to go to the last question because time is spent. You just forgive me, Brother Tony. This last one, and then we just come to a close. Should we eat nothing that we can't ask God to bless? It is there in the chat box. You can follow it together with me. So food prepared on Sabbath, it's not food I suppose any conscientious Christian will ask God to bless. Shall we partake food prepared on Sabbath as health reformers? I think the question here is whether we can partake of food prepared on Sabbath as health reformers, or simply if it is good to prepare food on Sabbath. Shall we partake food prepared on Sabbath as health reformers? We want to handle it quite fast so that we just come to a close. Yes, Ryan.
I would respond by 1 Corinthians 10:31. I believe the person asking the question has also indicated, as noted within the question, that we ought not to contradict what God has already inscribed in His Word. 10:31 of 1 Corinthians, a common text. Whatsoever thing we do, whether we eat or drink, in whatsoever thing we do, we ought to give God glory. So that should always be our first aspect in considering anything that we do, in eating, in drinking, or whichever thing it is. Thank you.
All right, anyone who wants to comment on it, Elijah?
Okay, thank you so much. I was also trying to reach the book of Isaiah 58, which speaks about the Sabbath. Because the Sabbath is a blessing for cuts across all the things of this world. Anyway, just to endorse on what our sisters just said, that all the glory should be the Lord and the Lord alone. Of course, we ought to ask ourselves, why do we have preparation day? Why do we have preparation days? To prepare all those things. And so that simply means that, of course, it depends on this aspect of preparing food, like on the Sabbath. And of course, going to the extent of someone maybe who is not conscientious, who is praying for it. Is it a routine thing that they usually cook on Sabbath, or what actually preempted or brought about the preparation on Sabbath? Basically, it is not supposed to be so. It's not supposed to be prepared and going to the extent of praying for it or dedicating it on Sabbath. Of course, preparation day has to be utilized as per the word of God. So all the glory, all the things that we do, we ought to get it right from the Bible. Utilize the preparation day, ought to be prepared. So simply, whatever I'm saying is that basically something that has been prepared on that day, if from my side, is that if it's a routine aspect, to prepare on Sabbath, then I believe that one will violate the aspect of giving glory to God. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the responses. Time is much spent. We were supposed to stop at 9. There's a question that is popping up there. Mino, we did not get you well. What of high altitude areas like coastal region? Maybe you can articulate the question so that we handle it very fast as we come to a close. I did not understand it. Food preparation in regards to high altitude areas like coastal region, if they should be prepared on Sabbath. Maybe she's trying to imply that if you prepare them on Friday, then they could go bad by the time it reaches on Sabbath. Yes, Ryan.
There is no ill in warming food on Sabbath. And that is why during these presentations, as we were talking about the simplicity of meals that is prepared, especially by those who have embraced a planetarian diet, if we decide to make foods, our preparation simple, for instance, embracing baking foods, if you bake bread and decide to have it with fruits, you'll not have the problem of deciding to warm it again on the Sabbath. But if you have to prepare food that needs warming, there's no ill in warming food. The problem is if we are engaging in duties and works that are going to rob us of the time and also on concentration on giving ourselves or giving God the glory and the honor that He deserves on His holy day, then we would not be observing the Sabbath as should. But there's no ill in warming food on the Sabbath. Thank you.
Yes, Tony, very fast as we come to a close. Sorry, yes, Tony, very
Yes,
fast as we come to a close.
Let the food be as simple as possible. That's all I can say. No need to cook complicated meals, just like Kyle has said. Let it be simple and one that can last from the preparation day to